This is the only microphone I've ever been too tall for. All right, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out to the Columbia County Plus One ADU Community Kickoff event. This has been a long time in the coming. This is a grant that we received in April, a grant award that we received in April. And we've been working on the program design ever since, learning a lot from what our program partner has been able to achieve in Ulster County, and also working with Homes and Community Renewal at the state level, who helped us design our program as well. Just for a bit of context, the initiative for this particular program came out of the Columbia County Housing Task Force. This is a group that was impaneled by the Columbia County Board of Supervisors in 2022. We started meeting in 2023, early 2023. In fact, our first meeting was in this very building at the room next door. One of the things that we were charged with was trying to identify strategies for specifically rural workforce housing throughout the county. There are a lot of programs for folks at different ends of the income spectrum. There aren't a lot of programs for folks that are kind of in that middle. And there are a few programs that are out there that can be tailored, and this is one of them. This is relatively new. This is the second round of this grant. But we think what we've created for Columbia County will be applicable to our rural areas, and specifically to the rural workforce and the homeowners that we're trying to specifically target with this program. A little bit of history about this. This is how this program came together. Is going to be one of those stories that I think the people who worked on it will tell for quite a few years. We alerted the Board of Supervisors that this grant was available a few days before New Year's Eve last year. The way county government works, they don't really come back and do a lot at the first meeting. The first meeting is an organizational meeting. There's typically not business to be done. We made a few phone calls, wrote a few emails, talked to the right people. And the part of this grant that we needed the Board of Supervisors for, aside from them just saying, yes, please do this, resolution needed to be passed by for our County Board of Supervisors. That resolution was passed unanimously at what would have been just their organizational meeting. They were kind enough to put us on their agenda as the only item of business that required a vote. And thankfully, the vote went the way that we wanted it to go. Sent in the application a few weeks after that, and we learned that we won the award in April. Very importantly, our project partner on this particular program is RUPCO. RUPCO has been a housing and community development nonprofit organization working throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley for the past 40 years. This is one of their first forays into the county. They're just starting to edge their toes up this way. Traditionally, they work in Ulster County, Orange County, Sullivan County, and I'm sure I'm going to miss a county or two that Faith Moore from RUPCO can fill you in on. RUPCO is currently administering this program for Ulster County in the city of Kingston. And in the new round of this program, which is the round that we're a part of, they've opened that up to the rest of the county. We're actually doing pretty well as far as the timeline on this program. We are a little bit ahead of where the other second round awardees are. In fact, we're the first of those awardees to have a community event of this type. So we, again, just want to thank you for coming out. There are snacks here if you'd like to avail yourself of snacks. I cannot stress enough how important it is that you know that your microphones are hot. That'll be the last warning until we get into the Q&As. So for a little bit of level setting, that was kind of the context setting. For level setting, I'm sure if you're in this room, you know what an ADU is. But we take nothing for granted here. I've shamelessly stolen this from the American Association of Retired Persons, who typically does the best job for explaining what accessory dwelling units are and what they can be. So here you see the different types of accessory dwelling units that you can create or convert. So you've got detached, attached, above garage, even basement conversions. This is a really good resource that's pretty easily available through aarp.org/ADUs. So this is going to be really quick. Faith is going to talk about all the stuff you guys are here to listen to. This is just me kind of vamping a little bit. So these are the different types of ADUs or some examples of ADUs that you see throughout the country. ADUs are small residences. Very importantly, they share the same lot as a single family primary residence, but they are fully independent. They have a full kitchen. They've got full bath facilities. So it's almost like a tiny home that is also on the lot with the main residence. The most popular example, and popular culture of ADU tenants is Arthur Fonzarelli. I use this as an example all the time, did not know that AARP used this as well. The one caveat that I do want to add here is that just because you have an ADU on your property does not mean that that person needs to be in your kitchen every morning. I know that's how Fonzie work, but you don't have to go that route. So ADUs have been around for a really long time. Granny flats, in-law apartments, they go by a variety of names, even within this program. So we have 23 municipalities throughout Columbia County. 20 of them are participating in this program. There are 20 different definitions of what an accessory dwelling unit is in those individual towns. Some of them are actually called accessory dwelling units, but because of the development type and the way the housing is cited, they would still qualify for this program. Community compatible is really important. When we talk about trying to increase housing in rural areas, especially in Columbia County specifically, we are really constrained with where we can build and how much we can build because we don't have a lot of water and sewer infrastructure specifically. We also have an abundance of rural beauty and rural character, rural charm that we don't want to disrupt at all. One of the ideas in community development is called gentle density, excuse me. Gentle density refers to adding housing units to a community in a way that doesn't really disrupt the development pattern, doesn't disrupt the neighborhoods. Accessory dwelling units are probably the most gentle form of density that you could add. You're basically taking a parcel that somebody already owns, already lives on, adding one unit to it. So that is why they're referred to as being community compatible. ADUs benefit people and places. The most common questions I've received over the 4 months of lead up to where we got tonight were, if I build an ADU, can my family who's now out of state, can they move back, live in my home, and I live in the ADU? 100%. So that is a question and a concern that we hear a lot as we work on housing issues throughout Columbia County. My children can't afford to move back to the area where they grew up. So this is one small intervention that will help move that line a little bit. The other question that we hear a lot is, if I build this ADU, do I have to market it? Do I have to rent it out to somebody? Well, someone has to occupy it, but that person can be your, someone who is aging in your family. You don't need to charge them any rent. You could just build the ADU and they could occupy it. They also qualify, or that particular ownership type qualifies under this program. This is actually interesting. I don't want to get too far into this, but if you took two circles, and one of those circles was, here are young families or young employees, and here are folks who are trying to age in place, somebody who wants to downsize. What type of housing unit are they looking for? It's very often, that Venn diagram is very often just one circle. The types of housing units that people who are looking to downsize, the types of housing units that people who are just entering a workforce or just trying to move into a community, they are very often the same, and ADUs can actually help address some of that similarity. ADU rules and regulations, again, this is kind of a national view because this is AARP, but again, in Columbia County, we have almost as many different types and definitions of ADUs as we have communities. Are ADUs allowed? There are 3 communities in Columbia County in which ADUs, and they are not participating in this program because ADUs are not currently allowed. That is the city of Hudson. That's back up. The city of Hudson and the village of Valatia. The town of Taconic recently passed ADU legislation not too long ago, like 3 weeks ago. It was really recent. So we are now at 21 of our 23 communities that allow some form of ADUs in their communities. I'm gonna skip this. This is an ad for AARP and I'm not getting paid. So I'm gonna leave this up during Faith's presentation. Faith Moore is here from RUPCO. Again, RUPCO is currently running this program in Ulster County and is beginning to implement it in Sullivan County, Orange County. Okay, that's us. So I'm just gonna leave our contact information up here. If anybody has any questions that are specific to the program itself, just the program, you should reach out to Faith. If you've got questions about how do I talk to my local town board, town planning board, my code enforcement guys, you should talk to me. So both of our emails are up there. Please avail yourselves of them as you need to. And without further ado, Faith Moore.
Thank you.
And you're welcome.
Hi, everybody. Is the mic, can you hear me okay? All right, and I just want to make sure that anybody that has joined us online can also hear us. So my name is Faith Moore. I am the Senior Vice President of Operations and Strategy at RUPCO. And this program, as well as several other programs that we do, fall under my umbrella. And what a perfect word for today, right? So thank you everybody for coming out, bearing the weather, dealing with the rain. I also want to personally apologize. After I got here, I said, oh, I should have brought some sidewalk signs that said RUPCO event, and put a trail of them from the road all the way to this building. So I apologize. That was not something I thought about bringing today until I got here. So that is my first apology of the night. And my second apology of the night is, I think most of you, when you came in after you signed in, you grabbed an application. My second apology is there's a couple of trails with the yes and no on this first page that are not accurate. So I am going to ask you all, we're going to talk about this, but let's, like we're playing bingo and the first game is over. Let's just take that off the application, so that when we go through it. So that is my second apology. As Chris was saying, and great introduction about what ADUs are. But when he was going through and talking, yes, this money was awarded back in April, and we have been administering this program through the pilot program. These are funds that are given to the organizations that will apply to them from New York State Homes and Community Renewal. And we are so excited to partner with them because they really get it and they really understand the need for housing. So we're excited. But we have been administering the pilot program in Ulster County for the last year, and we have learned some things through this pilot that worked and didn't work, or that we're still working through. So for the last couple of months, Chris and I and the task force have been working really hard on this application to make sure that we got the application right. And we were like, oh, let's create this little, my marketing and branding manager was like, hey, let's create this little map and make it easy. I guess we just missed the yes and no's, right? So I will talk about all that, but I just wanted to start with my apologies. And also thanks for taking time away from your families to be here tonight to talk about something important. Let me ask a question. Prior to the launch of this and starting to market it, how many people knew what an ADU was? And okay.
Any of that stuff.
Right. So that's great. And that's wonderful. And I like the Happy Days reference. That was pretty good. So thanks for coming. So now that the rest of us that didn't know what it was before this came out. So first and foremost, I also recognize that when anybody sees anything that says grants up to $125,000, everybody's like, oh yeah, I want $125,000, right? Like who doesn't want $125,000? I want to make sure that everybody clearly understands that $125,000 is not going to completely build an ADU for you with turnkey and be ready to go. So there is going to be some skin in the game, and recognizing, and I say this all the time, through my decades in nonprofit housing world, I've come up with doing homeownership counseling and foreclosure prevention counseling. And one of the things that I always say is that everybody's financial situation is as unique as a fingerprint. So where for one person making 100% AMI, I might have savings. I might have ability to put $40,000, $50,000 into getting this project done, knowing that it's going to yield some rental income for me. But somebody else making the exact same amount of money, for whatever reason, might not have the same amount of savings. Some people might have access to loans, might not be able to have loans. So I do want to make that very clear from the get-go that they're not saying that none of them can be built, in that range, but what we are seeing in the pilot program is total cost, including site work, turnkey, ready to go, are anywhere between $155,000 to $200,000 to be complete. So just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. So that's the first thing, that there will be some owner contribution into it. The second thing is that there is 100% AMI income level. So that is the first mistake on this little sheet. But the income levels are on the application. So on the front page of the application, and it is based by household size. So if the household of the owner of the property, because this is also an owner occupied program, you have to live on the property that you are looking to build the ADU on. And there also cannot be any other rentals on the property. So if you're a one-person household, you can make up to $74,480. If you are a four-person household, you can make up to $106,400 a year, and that's based on annual income. So the first thing is income. If you fit into that income range, great, you could potentially qualify for the grant. You understand that there will be some out-of-pocket expenses, and you're willing to put that into, then you can continue to look to see if you're eligible for the grant. The next thing is, as Chris shared, I'm very excited that Columbia County has so many municipalities that are already bought into this. I share this story all the time. So I kind of grew up in nonprofit housing. My mom, Alice Dickinson, started Orange County Rural Development, which is a nonprofit organization in Orange County that just celebrated its 40th anniversary. So I feel like I've been around nonprofit housing my whole life. But about 15 years ago, in Orange County, she was talking to the town boards about starting to look at changing zoning to be able to allow accessory dwelling units. And they laughed at her and they're like, no way, no way, no way. And then now here I am 15 years later building accessory dwelling units. So this program for me is very important. But compared to the municipalities in other areas that are already ahead of the game and allowing zoning, Columbia County is far exceeding other areas in the Hudson Valley. So the next thing would be making sure that your municipality will allow accessory dwelling units. And as Chris said, there's only 3 currently right now that do not. Next thing would be to have an idea of what type of accessory dwelling unit you would like. Now, this grant is flexible in the way that you can do an individual freestanding. You can do a conversion of existing space, whether it's conversion of a basement, conversion of an attic, conversion of a garage that could be attached or detached. It could be a barn. It could be, as I said, just empty space. I have somebody that is building a garage for accessibility, for an accessible workshop for himself, and then is putting an ADU up above. In this particular case, the ADU funds can only go towards helping create the accessory dwelling unit itself, not for creating the garage, but that is where his own funds will go into being able to do it. But in his case, as I mentioned, it gives him an opportunity to have an accessible workspace for him to continue doing woodworking. So an idea of what it is that you're looking to do, because I say all the time that it has to be a near shovel ready program, right? And when I say that, when you turn in your application, you don't already have to have your permit and ready to go, but you have to know that it is a program that will be approved by your municipality. Everything needs to be built and ready to go in the next 18 months. Oh, okay. I was like, oh, is he saying something to me or was he just checking the computer? So shovel ready as could potentially be. Couple other notes. When we go through the application and look at a couple of high points in the application, I want to also point out, while it is not a requirement, you may hear some talk about the program that is currently being run through the round 1 in Ulster County, that it is a requirement that they rent to somebody making 80% of AMI or below. In this, now going forward, it is not a requirement, but you will get extra points if you agree to rent to somebody making 80% of AMI or below.
AMI, I can't.
Oh, sorry, no worries. Area median income. So it's very similar to the area median income for the levels that make the 100%, the income levels to qualify for the program. Which I will help with everybody that needs any additional information going forward of what those income levels would be for renting. Another absolute deal breaker on this is the ADUs are only for long-term rental. They cannot be used for any type of short-term rentals, vacation rentals, anything like that for a 10-year period of time. And when I say that, again, everybody hears $125,000 grant, right? So they're like, oh yeah, it's free money, but as anything in life, is anything really free, right? So the grant funds sit on your property with a lien that say that for that 10-year period of time, you have to rent long-term. There has to be leases. It cannot be short-term. And if you sell your property within that 10-year period of time, you may owe a portion of the grant back from the proceeds of the sale. Because it is you're signing on saying that you're going to continue to do this property for that 10-year period of time. After 10 years, it automatically goes away. You don't have to worry about it. And you don't owe any of the money back. Restrictions. Okay, the other thing I want to talk about too is potential for tax implications, right? How many times I've heard, even with doing repairs on homes, I don't want to repair anything on the outside because I don't want the tax assessor to come by and give me a higher assessed value on my property and my taxes go up. So will building an ADU make my taxes go up? Potentially, but not right away. And there are some laws that are close to being completely passed that say that if your property value increases after completing the ADU, the first $200,000 of that assessed value is exempt from having taxes for the first 5 years. So that's 421, and we will continue to work through with you with that. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that there could potentially be increased assessed value in your property. Application, we'll go through and do a couple of highlights here in a moment, but application period starts today. Applications as printed are here. I have a couple of accessibility modification applications that I will get out to people that need that. I have a couple of printed in Spanish as well. If anybody needs any in any other language, please let me know. I will make sure they get to you. Applications are also downloadable from our website so that you can take them with you. An application period will be open until December 13th. So all applications need to be received by then. I want to take a moment and introduce my staff now that the majority of them are back here because they have been spread around, making sure that people found the room. I have Steve Martin, Jennifer Lopez, Joanne Perez, and Kaya Davis. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. And so Kaya is who will, if you call and you have a question, her name is on the application. It says, if you have any questions, please call Kaya. So this is who you will be speaking to. Kaya will be pretty well versed and be able to answer all of your questions. But also be patient. She also administers and runs a couple of programs. So if she does not have a direct answer for you immediately, she has a direct way of getting to me at all times. So she will occasionally say, that's a good question. Let me reach out to Faith and I'll get back to you. And additionally, on occasion, you may have to leave a voicemail for her, but she is super fast with getting back to people. Even if it is to just get back to you and say, hey, I got your message. I'm going to get the answer for you and I'm going to continue getting back for you. But I wanted you to put some names with faces so that you knew who you were going to be talking to. So as I already said, we'll take that front piece off because one of the first discrepancies that I noticed in here, mobile homes are not eligible. So mobile homes cannot be eligible for the ADU property program. And the income limits are also on there. So the other thing that I noticed immediately was that if your income level exceeds the chart below, no, you are not eligible to continue. If your income is below that chart, then you can continue. front page of the application, there is a little checklist of documents that in addition to filling out the application that you will need to gather. So obviously the application, the authorizations and the disclosures. You will need to prove your household income. So we do ask for the last 8 weeks of pay stubs. And I do want to continue to reiterate that sometimes people, and I'm not saying anybody here is going to do it, but sometimes people get mad at us because they're like, why are you asking for that? Or why do you need that? These are not our requirements. These are the requirements of New York State. We have been entrusted with them to be able to administer the entire program in Columbia County is $2 million. The program that we're running in Ulster County is $5 million. Orange County is $4 million. So they entrust us to run the program the way that they set forth. So the last 8 weeks of pay stubs, most recent federal tax returns, and if you are self-employed as part of your tax returns, there needs to be 3 years with schedules. 3 months of your most recent bank statements. Photo ID. So we need to prove that you are who you say you are. And if for some reason the address on your photo ID does not match the address that you are applying for and where your deed is, we will ask you to give us an explanation for that, because that is the first thing that the state looks at and says, oh, do they really live there? How do we know if they really live there? So there will be some additional information that is required as far as that goes. Proof of homeowner's insurance, because we want to make sure that your homeowner's insurance is always up to date. Your last mortgage statement, same thing. We want to make sure that the property is not at risk of going into foreclosure. And I will also say that if anybody is struggling to pay their mortgage right now, you're not alone. Many people are struggling to pay your mortgage. And there are agencies in Columbia County that can help you with foreclosure prevention services. So if anybody is struggling with that, please let us know. And copy of your most recent tax bill, because just as the same, we want to make sure that you're not going into potential foreclosure with your mortgage. We want to make sure that your taxes are also up to date. So then the next couple of pages are a series of questions as far as the application goes. And everybody's situation, again, is just like your financial situation is going to be unique. Then the next couple of pages are the authorization to release of information. Again, it's a requirement from New York State for the program that you sign that. That does not mean that we go out telling everybody, hey, I met Chris today and Chris is applying for the ADU program, but we have reporting requirements that we have to give to the state. So we need your permission to be able to give that information to the state on those requirements. The same as the disclosure statement, we are bound to disclose to you what we charge. We are not charging you specifically to say you need to pay us to administer this grant. Any of the fees that we are getting to administer the grant come out of the grant funds. But we are required to disclose anytime that we are requiring fees for anything when it comes to any of our other services. And then the last couple of pages are a series of facts, some questions to go through. And I'm pretty positive that when we get to the Q&A here in a minute, I'm pretty sure that everybody is going to come up with most of the questions that are answered in here. But I want to give everybody an opportunity to ask those questions and how they go so that we can answer them and go forward. But they are all here on those last couple of pages. As I said, the application, as well as the scoring criteria. Sorry, I almost went right past that. So the scoring criteria is set out on page 8. So the project narrative, you will be required to write a narrative and explain what your vision for the ADU is. And it is outlined there. You can get anywhere from 2 to 25 points outlined there. B, the being eligible for a real estate tax exemption is an additional 5 points. And then, as I mentioned, that there is an opportunity for an additional 20 points if you are willing to rent to somebody that is making 80% of the area median income or below. Those affordable rental amounts are listed here based on whether it's a studio, 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom. And New York state law has a bunch of different requirements. Technically, a landlord cannot ask a potential tenant how much they make. So in those situations, why we set the maximum rent incomes to be affordable to somebody making that area median income. Because if you get somebody in, of course, my staff is happy to collect the income of your potential tenant and verify that they make that income. But if somebody has to move out after 2 years and you don't want to always be coming back to us, if you just set the rents, that is good enough to require, to get those 20 points that you're agreeing to do that. So go through, applications are due by December 13th. You can mail them. That information is on the front page. You can mail them to Kaya. You can email them to Kaya. RUPCO has offices in Kingston, Walden, Newburgh, Monticello. I have staff that comes near Columbia County. I see Chris. We will always find a way to make it work. If for some reason you can't mail it or you don't have access to be able to fax it or to email it, we can get it to Chris and I can pick the application up from Chris. We can always just share your situation with Kaya and we will make that work. Once the application period closes on December 13th, everything then goes to the selection committee, which is going to be made up from a couple of different areas, some people from the task force, maybe a person from RUPCO, couple of community members from Columbia County, and then they will take and score the applications, and then they will choose the top 14 and then go forward from there. My staff, Kaya and I, we go through, make sure that everybody is really eligible prior to them going to the selection committee. And then you will be notified that you're selected. And we will then talk to you about the next steps going forward from that. Then we were also, just as much as we will let everybody know that they're selected, we will also let everybody else know that they were not selected as part of the selection committee. I am also a big advocate of letting people know where they scored. And to not deter you, because one, ADUs are good. I think ADUs are a win-win situation. But I also know that there will be potential for some money for round 3 coming out. So I am hoping that we are going to do such a great job here that then there will continue to be more money. So we don't want it to discourage everybody and be like, oh, okay, forget this. I don't want to do this again. So now with all of that, I am sure that there are a bunch of questions. So
What are the points you're talking about?
yeah, so the points are the scoring criteria. They are listed on page 8 in the application. You can score up to a total of 50 points. The project narrative has a max of 25 points. The property tax has a max of 5 points, and then the additional affordability has another 20 points. So max you can earn is 50 points, and everybody is going to earn, a different amount of points. And then the selection committee goes through to determine based on points.
So that you're looking to increase your points.
Correct. It's the grant. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. So, and maybe, and then we don't know, right? And that is really going to be the biggest issue, depending on being oversubscribed, which I really hope we are, judging by the number of people that are in this room today and how many people are interested, which makes me very excited. I expect to get 85 applications, which is then why the scoring is going to be very important, to make sure that you're scored so that you're able to be selected of the top 14 to be selected for the project. Yes.
Yeah, forgive me, I don't have the FAQ in front of me, but Does your definition of mobile home encapsulate manufactured homes affixed to permanent foundations?
I will have to get back to you on that exact answer, because it's my understanding, and I just don't want to give the wrong answer publicly. It's my understanding if it's a manufactured home on its own foundation on a property that is owned, the homeowner is still eligible to build an ADU on their property. But I just want to get that true definition from the state before I answer. So I have everybody's contact information and emails. I will email that question. Excuse me, Kaya, can you just write that down to remind me to get that question and then answer out to everybody tomorrow? Because that's my interpretation, but I want to get their interpretation.
Just before the next question, I think I did too good of a job of warning you guys about the hot mics. So I'm going to come around with this hot mic.
Oh, hello. I just wanted to ask you, what square footage are you basing the cost?
Good, thank you. So, well, first I want to say, so an ADU is considered minimum 500 square feet, maximum 1,500 square feet. What we are seeing though, as construction costs are coming in anywhere between 600 and 900 square feet. However, I want to introduce Brian Bear. And Brian is with Elevated Studios. Brian, do you want to say a few words about what you do? Brian's looking to partner with us to give some potential candidates some construction advice, maybe some architectural advice, maybe just say a few words because you may be seeing him again.
Evening, everyone. Brian Bear, founder and executive director of the Elevated Studio. We are a nonprofit, national nonprofit based in Beacon. We do a host of housing solutions for low to moderate income households. We do a lot of disaster recovery work. We do a lot of resilient and sustainable housing. Accessory dwelling units is a little pet project of mine, so I'm really excited to be a part of this. Happy to answer any technical questions, design questions, what you can do, what you can't do, that sort of thing. So that's my less than 30-second dog and pony show.
Thank you. Thank you. And with that, the reason I was like, oh, let me introduce Brian right then is he was showing me some stuff today where construction costs were coming in at 150 a square foot or less. So, and again, that's the great thing about this program is that you're not set with one specific design or one specific way to do it. And those were freestanding units. How many square feet total? Yeah, 1,000 square feet units. So there are a ton of options, which our team will go through and work with you. I do want to, Brian brought up a good question when I was talking before. What if you already own your property outright and you don't have a mortgage? Because when I was talking about needing, you're still eligible. You would just then have to show us that your property taxes are up to date.
I can follow.
Sure.
So you own your home.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
You live in a special flood hazard area. Don't have flood insurance because you don't have a mortgage.
Yeah.
So now you build the new structure. You may have a mortgage or you may have a note of some type.
Mm-hmm.
Is the state requiring flood insurance for that property?
Absolutely, 100%. And that is some of the things, you know, Kaya will talk to you about when we are then bound to do environmentals on all of your properties to make sure that you can go ahead and do that. And you will 100% in that case then be required to have flood insurance. Question back there.
Work on the property yourself, do any of the building yourself, Joe?
You are allowed to do some of the work yourself, but I'm not allowed to pay you to do the work yourself. So with, as I mentioned, with the cost, our money, the money that we give as part of this grant has to go directly to a contractor. And I want to mention, we did have a contractor event a couple weeks ago. We had another one this afternoon to talk to the contractors, but all contractors that are used have to have general liability, have to have workers' compensation insurance, and then also have to, of course, have 3 references and have estimates that are approved by you. So our money has to go to pay a contractor directly, but as part of your entire work scope and you're working with your contractor, if you do floors and that's what you do, the part of the flooring is going to be something that you're going to do on your own and it's not going to be part of your cost of your estimate. Of course, go ahead.
We have a farm. That's not considered a commercial business or for the sake of this.
You own you own the property, and is it run as a business?
It's a farm. It's an agriculture.
Good, very good question. So Kaya, write that one down again too. Let me follow up with you on that tomorrow. I think you're fine, but again, I just want to double check with our funders before I go and I know this is being recorded too. So before I'm held to it, because they're going to be like, Faith, you said. Sure, over here.
Yes, you just talked about contractors. Do you have a list of reputable ones in the county? I thought you might because just because they need to be reputable and
We do. And we are still always looking for more, right? So out of the number of people that are in this room, I'm sure people know at least one contractor or one trade. So please, if you know somebody for whatever trade, whether they're a general contractor or an electrician or HVAC or whatever it is, send them to our website. They go right to our website and there's a section that says how to become a RUPCO contractor, a registered RUPCO contractor. Send them there, then they get their information to us. And some of my team will give them a call and check their references and check their insurance. And then we can send all of that information out to you as well. Yes, sir.
Do you know if there are towns and villages, let's say you had a 1,500 square foot ADU and you wanted to put a basement in it? Are they counting that so you'd have to go 750, 750? Or could you put a full-size basement underneath one of these? I know it's.
So build in a free, so you're saying you're gonna do a freestanding ADU
With the basement.
with a basement and you're still under 1,500?
Well, 1,500 on the first floor, not the basement. And you have to be 750, 750 if that's the limit? Do you guys know that?
So livable space of the ADU can't be more than 1,500 to be considered an ADU, but that is state for the program, right? And I'm gonna also then say that potentially could be a municipality question based on where it is that you're looking to build this. So when I say that for this program, it's a minimum of 500 square feet or maximum of 1,500, that's the state regulations for this grant. Every municipality has different rules, regulations, requirements. So I would definitely defer that question to your municipality. And I'm going to say that is something that we're going to have Chris help follow up on. If maybe you can get with him to let him know specifically what municipality you're in, and then we can get that answer.
Yeah, that's actually, I just want to jump in on that. That's really important to note. So you can make elements of a state program more restrictive at the local level, but you can't make them broader.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's done. So refer to local zoning. If you're not sure what it is, you can let me know. I've got them all saved in my computer at work. I will tell you right now that the 1,500, is anybody from Austerlitz? You don't have to out yourself, but. Okay, great. I can pick on Austerlitz a little bit. They have no maximum size restriction on their accessory dwelling units. So if you had a 3,000 square foot home in Austerlitz, by Austerlitz local code, you could build a 3,000 square foot accessory dwelling unit. That would be outside the bounds of this program. It's probably going to cost much more than most of these ADUs will cost. But that's just an example of how wide the gamut ranges from the local zoning codes from town to town and village to village.
Thank you. Good. Yes, ma'am.
First, thank you very much. And for everyone too, it's great to be here. On the property, there are two structures. One is a garage, hopefully a granny shack. The other is a two-family home. If there's a two-family home on the property, it's one building, but it's split down the middle. Is that ineligible?
It is ineligible because it has to just be, you can't have any other rentals on the property. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Understood, but for the parameters of this grant, there cannot be any other rentals. It has to be a single family owner occupied home to then build, whether it's for mom, sister, brother, daughter. I see some of that, or I even have seen some older homeowners who want to downsize that are building the ADU so that they can move into the smaller unit, and then their children and their family are moving into the bigger unit. But yeah, they're just for the parameters of this program, there cannot be any other rentals. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So technically, and I'm not a real estate attorney. I just know from doing housing work, but technically landlords are not allowed to say when you're coming in to rent, how much do you make and show me proof of income. They can just ask, do you work? So that is why we set this guideline to say, yeah, that as far as this, if we're going to say you can get extra points for renting to somebody at 80% AMI. I don't want to set people up for breaking fair housing by saying, show me your pay stubs. So that's why we set the rental incomes that way.
Can I just put a request? If you've got a mic, just for the folks on Zoom, I don't think that they can hear the questions being asked in the room unless you're speaking into a microphone. So there's one near you, please avail yourself. If there isn't, please ask a neighbor. I can try to run around, but this is a big room.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Can you be a little more specific about household income?
Yes.
What if you have an adult child who's never been able to fly the nest because they can't afford an apartment, but they live in the house? There's no separate unit. Can a separate unit be built so that the parents can have some privacy and, like you said, the child and their eventual family lives in the larger home? Does that child's income count towards the grant?
Technically, yes. Could there potentially be some workarounds if exactly what you're just saying, and that person is going to be moving into the ADU? I believe so. So technically, household income, everybody that lives in the house who makes a paycheck gets counted towards household income unless they are a full-time student. But that is a way around it if they're a full-time student. Yes, ma'am.
So one follow-up and one question. So regarding the question about a 1,500 square foot basement, if basement was not defined as livable space and the person was gonna finance that basement by themselves, apart from the grant, that would be okay?
I'm going to defer that to your specific municipality. If statewide, yes, but again, it's what your municipality would allow.
So my question, so this is for one person, right? It can only be, what if it's a couple, a husband, wife, or two brothers?
No, it doesn't have to be one person. There's no guidelines on the number of people. As a matter of fact, in the pilot program in Ulster County, somebody is actually building a 3-bedroom ADU so that they can help house a family that is making 80% of AMI. So there's no restriction on the number of people that could be rented. It's just the restriction of the square footage for this particular program. Yes.
Is the grant money taxable income?
It is not. Back here.
I have
Hi.
a question about the additional affordability 20.
Sure. Can I get you a mic just so? Oh, yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Kaya. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that the people online are able to hear the questions. I'm sure they're probably sick of hearing my voice by now.
If people do those points go to someone who's like getting the house for a family member to live for free, or are the points like, I guess I'm wondering like, yeah, how that's differentiated if you're going to be renting to someone that's low income versus having the housing just be for free for someone, you know what I mean?
I understand your question. And what I can say to that is majority, if let's just say you're building it for mom, right? most of the time, mom would be under that income level anyway. So you're gonna say that you're committing to renting to that income level so that you can get those 20 points.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, ma'am.
So this, if you get this like an enforcement mortgage, it's filed as a lien against your property?
It is filed as a lien against your property. These are property maintenance declarations as opposed to a note and mortgage. So if anybody has experience with any like home buyer programs that we've done, the majority of them are note and mortgages, which then have to be satisfied at the end of their period of time. These are property maintenance declarations that then automatically self-satisfy at the end of the 10-year period.
So they're exempt from mortgage tax?
Yes, they are exempt from mortgage tax.
And they're subordinate to any mortgage?
Absolutely. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Retirees who do not have, oh, here it is. Retirees who do not have pay stubs for 8 weeks.
Then you would just show whatever your retirement income is. Yeah. So you don't necessarily, and that's why in that section, it lists a couple of things because whatever your income is, if your income is retirement, if your income is disability, if your income is no income, like it's just proof of whatever the income is. And Kaya will work with you on that as well. So again, if you have any questions, call her and say, hey, here's my situation. So what do I need to give you to prove what my household income is?
Hi, if we're not awarded in round 2, is the application kept in the running for round 3?
Well, we are going to keep the applications, but what I will say with that is if we do get awarded for Columbia County in round 3, because I'm totally projecting here, right? Like that, the application period for us to apply for round 3 isn't even open yet. But we do keep the applications, and when that comes, because that is exactly what just happened in Ulster County, right? They got awarded for round 2, but we had 99 people apply for round 1 in Ulster County, and we're able to choose 14. Now in round 2, I'm able to choose 36, but I have those other applications, but they all are they have to update their income information because we have to verify that nothing changed in their income, but you don't have to redo everything again. So just update those certain things. So that would be the thought process. And I'm sure that, I can't answer for everybody, but if we do get funded in round 3, I think we'd be okay with that.
I'm probably gonna apply.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, there we go. Hi. So from the application window closing, what's the time frame for applicants to find out whether they've been accepted or denied?
I am going to say definitely after the first of the year. And say that, the selection committee will work as fast as they can. We need a little bit of time, meaning us, my staff and I, to go through all of the applications to determine eligibility, because that's the first step. And that's why we're trying to make sure everybody self-selects and understands the eligibility, but we still have to go through and make sure everybody, everything is good. Then pass that on to the selection committee and give them time to go through and read. And, if we get 100 applications, that's 100 narratives to go through and read. So definitely after the first of the year. I think by the time the application period closes, we can have a better timeline for you. So a little bit clearer what that's going to be. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Can modifications to the existing structure that would be involved with trying to put on an addition, would those modifications be part of the grant?
Yes, it sometimes gets tricky because we still have to just make sure that the part of the grant is actually going towards the ADU portion of it. But again, I have somebody in Ulster County who is doing a conversion of her garage, and the garage is attached. And in order to do the conversion, she's doing addition onto the garage and also doing an addition onto her kitchen, all as one addition. So she's making her kitchen larger. We just have to make sure that the portion of those costs that we're paying on this grant are only going to the ADU part. But when we're talking that the costs are higher than what the grant is going to give anyway, that's pretty easy.
Does it have to have separate, separate electrical and separate heating?
Yes, it has to have it has to have its own electric. Well, I mean, you can do it and include heat and electric with it. So it does not have to have its own meter. So no, but it has to have its own kitchen, its own bathroom, and its own entrance. Yeah, so it could be dependent on your situation. Yeah. Mhm. Doesn't have to have separate utilities. Sure, in the back.
Hi, thanks for having us.
course.
So similar question to the gentleman, the farmer. I own a farm. So it'd be great to know about whether my farm, because it is a commercial business and there are other buildings that technically could be considered for commercial purposes, but these are not residences. So
Right.
the main residence is, a family home. But I also have a small building that that I know of does not have an address. It doesn't have an associated PO box. In the past, it was used to occupy farm workers. And so the idea is I'm trying to find out if I can use this money to refurbish that specifically for low income folks. It hasn't been in operation. Like, my question is, in this little pamphlet, it talked about operation. So the question is, does it mean, is there like a limit to when the last time it was used for any residential purpose?
No, in your particular case, provided that there's no issue with it being a commercial business, like with the farm, no, we could totally use these funds to make that an ADU.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just need to verify that farm thing. And again, I think you're right. You're all right. I just want to make sure that I want to verify that. Yes, ma'am.
If you have a 20 by 20 garage and you want to do a ADU conversion, that's 400 square feet. Does it have to be a minimum of 500?
It does have to be a minimum of 500 for this grant.
Addition on. Okay. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes, sir.
Hello?
There
There you
you
go. I had two questions. One, in terms of the steps to apply, the first part is you submit a bunch of documents with the paperwork that you provided. And then at some point, we'll be asked to submit a narrative, or do we have to submit the narrative with the first part?
Nope, the narrative with the application.
With the
Yes,
application?
that is part of it. Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Along with the supporting documentations. So the application where you're answering the questions, all of the supporting documents that are needed, the narrative is part of that.
Okay. And my second question is there any part of normal construction that would be used to build an ADU? Is there anything that the grant would not cover? For example, like a pre-assessment site fee or something by the town for $6,000 or something like this?
No, the grant can cover any pieces of that, whether it's pre-development or the actual construction or architectural fees or engineer fees. The grant can be used to cover any of that. But just remember, there's a max on what the grant is going to cover. So the way the majority of the people in this pilot in round one are doing it is they're using their funds to pay all of the pre-stuff. And then when it comes to we're just paying the contractor, or we're paying the prefab, manufacturer for them to do the freestanding unit to deliver.
And it only covers the cost of the building itself?
Yes.
Not like a driveway, for example?
No, but it will cover site work. Yeah.
Okay.
So anything to do with, there was a question, we had somebody that, as part of getting their approval, they had to get a variance in parking. And to get the variance in parking, she had to take a tree down. And the state said, I can't use the money to take the tree down, but I can use it to do all the rest of the site work. So she just used her own money to take the tree down, and then the funds from the grant are going to cover to pay the contractor. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. If you have an existing apartment in your house, but you're not renting it. Can you use this grant to upgrade that space?
Yes,
to then-
so that then it can be an eligible ADU, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and then in that case,
Oh, but I live in Hudson, so I can't do it. Right?
yeah.
Watch this space.
Huh?
Watch this space.
Uh-huh.
It's a rental.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Keep watching. That's exactly how he just said, watch this space. Again, I can't promise anything, but we all have our eyes on getting there's some new funding that is coming out from New York State to put into helping vacant rentals get back online that are already existing. So I can pretty much guarantee that many of us are going after that funding. So just keep watching for that to come out. Yeah, exactly. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have to come in with complete plans for this?
No, not at time of application, but you have to have complete understanding and an idea of what you want to do so that you know your municipality is willing to allow that to happen.
That's why.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
So,
Oh, so sure, go ahead.
I've already asked a question.
That's okay, go ahead. I'll go
So
next.
in the property, in the two-family house, if the tenant, right, moves out, we could apply for an AGU to upgrade that property?
Not if they just moved out, because it means that it's like rentable right now, right? So it's a rental.
Right, it's not
Yeah.
as if it's unrentable.
Correct.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. And there are some, people are asking about these 2-family homes or people that there's already rentals on it. And I'll just continue to say, keep watching, like watch websites, because we're really hoping that there's going to be a different kind of funding that will be able to help bring those empty vacant apartments back online into the market. Yes, sir, you were waiting.
The grant says the award is up to 125,000.
Correct.
What would decide how much of that 125?
So I can pretty much say that $112,500 is going to be direct assistance. As I mentioned, we don't charge you any fees to administer this program. Those fees come out of the grant awards. Yeah. And we also say up to, because maybe as this, gentleman was saying up here, he might not need the entire award to get his project done. So then there would be additional funds that somebody else so it's always an up to.
So the intention is to give as much as needed if possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, yes, there's a person in the back. I'm so sorry.
I was also asked a question. Someone would like to know if you can use a separate septic or a well, or does it need to be the same one?
No, it doesn't have to be the same one. And again, that's going to be dependent on your municipality and the health department about septic capacity. I actually have a situation right now in Ulster. Sorry to keep talking about Ulster. It's just because that's where the pilot was. She needed to add a bedroom. She had to increase her capacity size. And due to the cost of it, her property had enough room for her freestanding unit to add a 750-gallon capacity tank separate so that she didn't have to spend the cost to upgrade hers. Sorry, you had a question, sir? Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
So we've got a bid on the roofing that we've already agreed to. We've already put a driveway in. We've already gutted the property. We've already done a lot of that work. I mean, any of that, if we make the application, none of the money will be available until, let's say, February, March at the earliest. So should we stop? I mean, we're kind of caught in the middle because we need this property done pretty quickly.
Understood. And again, let me get back to you on that question because I don't know if work has been started, if you could apply, but let me just double check.
Okay.
Right? I don't want to say yes or no. That is a good question that we haven't come across yet. So thank you. Kaya, I was like, she's taking notes. And listen, everybody needs a Kaya in their life. Other questions? Yes, sir.
If, you said that you only have 180 property, right? Is that currently, or is that, would that be for the entire life of the 10 years of the grant? If I was to apply for the grant, get the grant, build the ADU, then I wanted to build another one if my municipality allowed it in 5 years.
Yeah,
is that-
we won't care,
Okay.
right? As long as you, right, because you're not using our funding to do it.
Could you use this funding to build more than one?
No. Because this funding can only be used on a single family dwelling to build one rental. It can't have any other units on it. So you can use this funding to build that ADU, and then in 5 years, you can use your own funding to build another one, and it wouldn't matter.
No way. Oh, there we go.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Hi. I have a building department question. Do we need to be coming to you when we fill out all of this information with approval from our local building department?
Not full approval, right? But an understanding that your project is something that passes their code and their zoning, which is where then at that time, I would say to you, if it's something that, of course, we're like, and Steve, again, everybody needs a Steve in their life. He's really good at understanding zoning and code. And Chris, who can help with that municipality, to be able to say, hey, this looks like a feasible project. So no, you don't have to have your final approvals, but exactly. And building inspectors and building departments are, I want to be very careful how I say this because they want to help, right? And I love the work that they do, but they also don't have the time to have 100 people coming in saying, hey, this is what I want to do. Can you come out and look at my property? But then this is also, again, where I'm hoping that Brian is going to be working with us and then being able to help us and say, hey, maybe if we tweak it this way, this is what's going to work. So between the entire team, I think we could help you make sure that you have a viable project to come in an application for. Yeah.
I'm on the town board of Gallatin, much like Connie here. Check your zoning because
Yeah.
I know that we aren't going to be working on ours. ADU is especially I love this whole grant. It's amazing. Make sure you check your zoning.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And continue to watch for updates and support. Thank you. And then I have supervisors here. I have town board members here, and I get so excited to see that, from a past life of mine being a deputy mayor in the village. It's thank you for caring enough to come out and listen to these type of things and letting housing be on your forefront to know what your constituents in your community, what is really going to help them. Yeah, exactly. So with all of that, unless there's any other burning questions for right now. Yeah.
Sure. Just because I would be remiss if I didn't shout out that we do have one of the supervisors who made this program happen, Denal Collins, the supervisor from the town of Chatham. I would be extra remiss if I didn't point out that one of the other gentlemen that helped this project happen is Mike Tucker, the president and CEO of where I actually work, which is the Columbia Economic Development Corporation. Supervisor Collins.
Yeah, I just had a question. You were referring to a septic issue where they were able to upgrade. In a case of shared well, shared septic, are you allowed to upgrade that serves both households in the name of providing for the new ADU?
Yes. Yeah. Under the grant. And again, I'm always going to say, go to your local municipality too about any, what's allowed there. So if there are no other burning questions for tonight. Yes, sir.
The narrative is something that needs to be in the application, right?
Yes, sir.
Can you just explain the narrative one more time? I already did. So.
Yeah. No, that's okay. So the narrative, I know this is where I was like, I joked around last time. I was like, so listen, The selection committee is not going to be judging grammar. We are not writing a thesis. It is not going to be looked at, even though we're in a college and we're in a room like where I feel like I'm giving a lecture in sociology or something. But not going to be judged on grammar or anything like that. It's really the content of the questions or the point areas that are listed on page 8 of the application. So the narrative is going to talk about the description of the envisioned project and the specific need. So that's really the piece of the narrative that's going to be important. So, you know, I need to build the ADU because my elderly mom needs to really move out of the place that she's in now and can still be on her own, but this is why I need to do it, you know, or something like that, you know. Yes, sir. No, that's okay.
Two houses, but they're on separate deeded pieces of property, separate sides of a state highway. My son and his family lives in one, but there are buildings on that side of the farm that could also be used for ADU. We own the others. We live on the other side and we'd like to maybe put an ADU in one of those buildings. That's where our primary is. Can I only do it on the side that I actually live on, or could I do it on the other side that I own? It's not like a vacation home, but I don't live
Does your
there.
son own, you said they're two separate deeds. Does your son own one and you own one, or do you own both?
I own both.
You can only apply for the one that you live on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mike. And hey, thanks for getting us involved up here.
Well, we're really glad to have RUPCO here to assist us. And, you know, Chris Brown, our Columbia Economic Development Corporation's housing coordinator, has been doing a great job on this and is a great partnership. Could you just go through what's happening in your experience in Ulster with respect to the fact that if the total cost of the project is $150,000, but you're only getting a grant of 112, how people are dealing with that? Because are they able to go to banks and get home equity loans, or what is the model that you're seeing so other people can get a idea of how they might make that gap up in this situation?
Absolutely. And that's a great question. And it is really, as I said, everybody's situation is unique as a fingerprint, and everybody is filling that gap in different ways. We did have one person who had to drop out of the program because she went to go apply for a loan and she's on a fixed income. And even with calculating the rental income, there wasn't enough for her to get, to get the loan. But there are other people who are they have savings that they're putting into it. Somebody else is doing a home equity line of credit to put into it. And Ulster's, there's a couple of banks, Ulster Savings Bank and M&T Bank, have talked to us about being able to do low interest rate loans for anybody to fill the gap on these if they wanted to take out that specific loan for that. So we have contacts for that. I have been trying to come up with lots of different ways to come up with additional funding sources that could be in forms of grants. There is nothing on the table solidified at this moment, but just know that I bring it up at the state level every 2 weeks when we have our state call. Dina Levy at New York State, who this program falls underneath, is also working very hard to help try to find other programs that can help. So again, we're just really, really thankful for the partnership with New York State, but those are just some ways. And, we're trying to be as creative as possible. Yeah.
I have a question.
Oh, I just want to add one detail to that, just because it's really relevant. So kind of pertaining to the piece of someone going out trying to get financing and, the value of the income they were getting from the property didn't really work out at the bank. Last October, at the federal level, the Federal Housing Administration actually issued a mortgage letter, which was basically a letter to banks saying if someone is adding an ADU to their property and they're trying to get financing from you, you must include the income that they're going to generate if it's a single family property. So it aligns perfectly with this program.
Yeah.
Okay, one of the questions you just mentioned about the narrative.
Yeah.
Is there for a reason. So what part of the decision-making process will a narrative play? Like if I said I'm building it for my crippled, disabled somebody, and somebody else says I'm building it for extra income, is that going to have bearing on the decision?
So it's outlined very specifically on page 8, that the envision project could get 1 to 15 points. And then the specific need is 1 to 10 points. So that entire narrative could be anywhere from 2 to 25 points. So, do you want? Again, so the committee is going to be made up of around 5 people. Everybody is going to go through, read, score, come up with a scoring on the narrative. And then that's how then based on this. So it's hard to say what they're looking for, and again, they're not going to be looking for grammar. Mike, please.
In many cases, the added revenue that you would get from this unit is not just what your market.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. 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 And I want to say, because I also want to be very mindful of your time that you came out in the rain, and it's almost 8 o'clock, and I promised we would be done by 8 o'clock, that just because this session tonight is ending, as I mentioned, any questions you can get to Kaya. Kaya can get to me. My cards are on the table. If my cards have run out, but my direct number is on there. My email is up on the thing, but it's fmoore@rupco.org. You can get to me on my email, or you can just call RUPCO and ask for Faith Moore, and they will get you to me, whether I am sitting in the Kingston office, the Walden office, the Monticello office, the Newburgh office. Trust me, my phone rings on my desk phone rings on my cell phone, so you can always get to me. But thank you. I look forward to an application from everybody.